Hey, Love Your Life fam. It's Crystal and Andre Holland.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, looking forward to hearing from you. So to find us, you can check us out on
Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Stitcher. We look forward to hearing from you all.
Yeah, we came a long way, and that's what the songs say. And I can do all things. I can do all things. Yeah, I can do all things. Yeah.
Hey, Love Your Life family. Welcome back to another Loving Your Life podcast. It's your sis, Crystal.
What's going on, family? It's your brother Andre. We're back at you for another podcast.
Yes, indeed, with another discussion about loving your life.
So it has been real for us. We actually took a week off, just truly reflecting, spending time as we celebrated our 18th year wedding anniversary. Yeah. It's been phenomenal. Some time to just get refreshed, get away, just really focus on us. Just been an awesome time, but definitely, babe, it's been surreal. Just a lot of reflecting.
It's crucial. I think it's such a valuable time to take. I even look at it as an investment. The time that you take to sit back, to truly reflect, to reminisce, to have conversations about what we've navigated through. Very emotional time, just really seeing just how faithful God has been to us and how much we've really overcome, survived, and being on the other side of a lot of things. So it's so important to frequent this so that you keep things in perspective when it comes to your life.
I totally agree. And even looking at, obviously, having the grace of God in our lives, even the specific strength that we've endured, that we had to utilize individually and corporately in marriage, wisdom, loved ones, friends that supported us throughout, that are still with us. But even reflecting on the haters over the years, those people in our past, as well as, people that we may have recently been in contact with, but just haters in general. Those people that really, we utilize their hate to propel us. We use it as fuel to keep pushing, to keep it moving, to keep going, to keep growing in one another in love, while simultaneously fulfilling, our mission, doing what we are purposed to do. So it's been an awesome time of reflection, awesome time of rest, awesome time of celebrating. And babe, I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. The one thing we didn't get to escape was this Arizona heat.
That is for sure. Hey, listen, so we've been dealing with 116, 118 degrees. It's slowly trickling down. I think yesterday's high was approximately 109. But it is still on fire out here in Arizona. Yes. However, you know what I'm saying? We're a strong proponent of whatever lemons you have, you make lemonade. So we didn't escape the heat, but we made the best of it.
Yes. And August just in general is a super busy month for us. We have 3 kids that we're celebrating birthdays back to back in August.
Yeah.
So we have total 4 children, but 3 of them, their birthdays are back to back in August. And
in addition to our anniversary.
And school starting.
So it's been a whirlwind of August already.
Yes. And so, man, this really sits and makes me think about really what we just did this past week, the investment of time, where you're putting it, so on and so forth. So what are your thoughts, babe, around this?
No, I totally agree. Just looking at everything that is going on right now in the U.S. and the world, but then even our personal lives, just, managing 18 years of marriage, raising 4 children, it definitely brings to mind what has your time but doesn't deserve it, what deserves your time but doesn't have it. Man,
that's good.
So the importance of time. So what deserves your time but doesn't have it?
Man.
That's pretty deep, just the thought of that. What has your time but doesn't deserve it? What deserves your time but doesn't have it? And so when I think of even, number one of the things that a lot of people really don't realize is that time is one of our greatest, if not the greatest asset, the most precious value that we have, the most precious, commodity that we can purchase or obtain, time.
Yes.
Because you never get it back. We have the ability, if we're given time, to earn more money,
right,
to recoup money that's been lost, if we have more time. But everything that we're working towards, everything that we're trying to become, everything that goals and so forth, the number one thing that they all have in common, when you look at where you're trying to go, what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to accomplish, it is all predicated upon time.
Man. This past week, as we did pull back on some things and redirected our attention to some other things, celebration, also, prepping our kids. But one thing that I truly wrestled with is, as a wife, as a mom, constantly on the grind, doing, the responsibilities that come with those titles. My body was saying, rest needs your time, but my brain was saying work needs your time. Yeah. So being able to truly listen, pay attention right now. Yes, there's always going to be a need with work and running a business, but right now your body needs rest. So right now your time needs to be invested in doing nothing.
Well, and that really speaks to, again, loving your life, meaning loving your life enough to realize when you need to slow down, when your body is saying, hey, I need a break. Loving your life enough to schedule those breaks, to rest, recoup. And then for us, that's exactly what we did this last week. Just really taking time to unplug, be intentional from sun up to sundown,
yes.
Do things we enjoy, celebrate, so it's been an awesome thing because, again, loving your life, you can't love someone enough until you have the ability to love yourself like you need to. Some people spend a lifetime trying to love someone else and be, give them love and all that they need while simultaneously neglecting their own needs and their own self. And I want to stress, loving your life enough where you love yourself first. That's not coming from I don't mean it from a selfish lens, but think about it. Your capacity or ability to serve someone else is basically rooted in your ability to be healthy enough and in the right state of mind and the right frame of mind to be able to do that for someone else. So you have to make sure that you are intentional about loving yourself, which means taking care of yourself. So what has your time but doesn't deserve it? What are your thoughts on that, Beth?
Well, I want to unpack that a little bit more, because there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are on the serving end on a daily basis. They're constantly serving, whether it's in marriage, parenting, work.
Millions, not thousands.
Yeah, millions.
Literally.
And so if you sit and you think about this, because I've had some conversations with people, well, I just do better, I function better when I'm doing something for others, and I find it a struggle to do stuff for myself. And I hear that a lot from a lot of younger individuals, even though I believe that statement applies to every generation. But because it's almost like a high, for some people, that's their love language, to serve, to give. Acts of service is what it would fall under. And so that's kind of for them, that's how they're showing that they love, that's how they feel loved, when they're able to do something for others. Now, the dangers of this is it getting out of balance to where if you're not doing something for somebody else, that you don't feel loved. And that's where the danger zone, I would say, is that if that is your thinking, or your pattern of thinking, that if you are not constantly doing something for somebody else, that means that you're not loved. And then that's where I believe it gets out of balance, where you're now investing your time in something that you're not reaping the benefits from, because everybody's benefiting off of you, but it's not being reciprocated on your end. And so being able to truly know when to pull back and invest that time with as much focus, time, and energy into yourself as you are doing to others, to be replenished and to have healthy perspective and balance.
That's good. So when you think about what has your time, just in general, that statement, what has your time but doesn't deserve it, what deserve your time but doesn't have it. For me, I think what deserves your time but doesn't deserve it is people, situations, or circumstances that are drainers.
Man.
Okay. They only take, and they don't deposit. So people, situations, or circumstances that withdraw from you on a consistent basis, but never deposit into you. I would say these people, situations, and circumstances, they don't deserve your time, although many people give them their time. And so the wisdom comes in where you say, listen, those things that don't deserve my time but have it, I'm going to make an adult, big girl, big boy decision and change the narrative. Set some healthy boundaries so that I'm not going to allow people, situations, or circumstances that have my time that don't deserve it. I'm going to refrain from allowing them to have that time because they don't deserve it. They're withdrawing from me, they're taking from me, but they're never depositing into me. And so we all have a choice. Again, it's just being bold enough to set healthy boundaries. Well,
and with that said, I think that especially if you have a career that's centered around poverty, where you're working in homeless shelters, you're working in the foster care system, a lot of environments that are consistently pouring from you, making sure that your circle, your community is pouring back into you, where right. You have space to release that, because the reality is we can't escape the poverty issue that's in the world. And so there are certain environments that are going to take from you, and you're not going to get somebody right. pouring back into you, but making sure that you have a community. Well, that's the balance, because you're speaking even to careers that is service oriented, mm-hmm. that number one, it's withdrawing from you your gifts, times, and talents. However, you're getting a paycheck. Right. But again, the emotional toll, depending on the career and so forth, is very heavy. And so it's important that as you're working in these industries that are that are service industries, and you given, it takes an emotional toll on your mental health, your strength, dealing with, because as people, as you're empathizing with people, it's, it takes an emotional toll when you're in environments of poverty, of abuse, of just, harm, and you're there to serve while being a social worker. I'm just naming a few: social worker, maybe a counselor, doctor, whatever. I mean, it's a lot of careers in service, millions, billions even. So those do take an emotional toll on you, although you're getting a paycheck. But it is important, like you mentioned, to have people in your community, organizations you belong to within your community, and or healthy outlets that's going to pour back into you. That is going to, that for sure, it's so key, because it's easy to get out of balance. Mm-hmm. You serve in these maybe high stress or high, environments that deal with a lot of, mental health needs. And then you come home and you serve your family. Right. And so it's easy to get out of balance to where you're constantly pouring out and not getting deposited into. And so loving your life enough is to make sure that you are plugged into people, organizations, hobbies, interests. Huge. That's huge. That is going to deposit back into you. That's a part of taking care of yourself. So again, just being, mindful what has your time but doesn't deserve it. You have the ability to shift, make arrangements, set boundaries. But the flip side of that, the flip side of what has your time but doesn't deserve it, is what deserves your time but doesn't have it. And that goes back down to the opposite end of that spectrum. There are particular things that deserve your time, and for us, and even as we spent these, this anniversary really having fun, spending time with one another and doing a lot of reflecting on marriage for 18 years, being together for 20. It was really a time to just think about all the things that deserves our time, and making sure that all the things that deserves our time, it has our time. Right. And so for us, in marriage, our time together, our time of fun, laughter, intimacy, being mindful of that. Obviously, our family, these are two priorities for us, our faith. So again, it's something that we all, to be healthy, we all need to analyze. Most definitely. And I want to even talk to you as a parent. As parents, many times we can give unbalanced attention and time to what our kids aren't doing right versus to what they are doing right, and affirming them in those areas, and then coming alongside of them and giving and teaching them how to improve, or other strategies about the things that they're not so good in. And language and tone are crucial when because you're shaping their minds. You're teaching them how to navigate through life. And yes, you can't protect them from jerks and people that could care less about their feelings. But to have those raw conversations with them, you want to be that safe place that they can land and know that, hey, I'm not good at this, and I can at least convey this to my parents without feeling shamed if I'm not good at something. And so again, for us as parents, we have a responsibility to, again, check ourselves, check our own biases, our own areas of impatience, and making sure that we are extending a lot of patience to our children in areas that they're still developing in, areas that they're still trying to learn. And then also embracing and understanding that because they have a mind of their own, there are going to be times where they're going to be a little stubborn. They're going to want to figure out something on their own, and give them that space as long as it's not going to hurt them or life-threatening. When I say hurt them, I mean like life-threatening. But then also knowing that you have a responsibility to be that safe place, because they will find safety in something that will hurt them. It's just the nature of human beings. We all want to be connected to somebody. And anything that affirms what we're doing, good or bad, in an immature state is dangerous. And so being cognizant and aware that if your kids have stopped talking to you or bringing certain things to you, it may be because they feel like you give too much time and attention to what they're not doing right versus what they are, which deserves your time and attention.
That's good. What really stood out to me when you were talking in regards to what deserves your time and what doesn't deserve your time, what really stood out to me was there are the things that don't deserve your time. Because some people, they stay in environments where it's ridicule, it's shaming, it's belittling, it's trying to point out your weaknesses, flaws, which we all have weaknesses.
Right.
We're all imperfect beings. But sometimes people stay in these environments, it's really eating away at the core of who they are. And they're making conscious choices to stay in these environments. But then even as parents, some people spend so much time talking to their children or criticizing their children for what they don't do right.
Right.
And that doesn't deserve your time. Meaning, yes, we're all called to bring correction, even in how we raise our children. I understand that. But if we're spending an overly amount of time constantly telling our children what they're doing wrong and how they're not good enough and how they need to be better, that environment, our children, that environment or that level of communication where it's unbalanced, that doesn't deserve our time.
Right.
Because just like a flower, if we give a flower or a tree the nutrients that it needs, sunlight, water, proper soil, fertilization, if we give a tree or a flower those proper nutrients, it's going to thrive. And so just like a flower or a tree, the analogy is our children. They will thrive given the safety, support, love, guidance, positive affirmation.
Right.
Our time, our support, our care. They will thrive under those conditions. And so if you're spending a lot of time where the condition that you're providing for your child is demeaning, you never have anything good to say. They don't feel safe. You're threatening them harm. They're walking on eggshells around you because if they drop a glass, you're going to belittle them and just constantly harass them for making a mistake. Just like a tree can thrive and a flower can thrive in healthy conditions, well, children can thrive in healthy conditions, but the opposite of that, they can also die slowly because of unhealthy conditions. When I say die slowly, necessarily not a physical death, but their ability to learn at the rate of other peers is drastically reduced when they're afraid, when the environment is not safe, when they're constantly belittled. Their ability to process their emotions and regulate their emotions,
that's so good,
is drastically impaired if they have grown up fearful, if you've constantly ridiculed them, constantly spent a time talking about what they're not doing right. And so it is drastically imperative, if you're truly trying to set an atmosphere of love and a healthy environment for yourself, your family, and for those that you're responsible for in regards to children, it is a must. It is a must. It's not even a request. If you truly want to set a healthy environment where your family, your loved ones, your children can thrive, it is a must that you reorganize your life so that the things that doesn't deserve your time doesn't have your time, but the things that does deserve your time, it has your time.
This topic hits so many issues. I'm sitting here thinking about what has your time when it comes to nutrition, what has your time when it comes to your marriage, what has your time when it comes to your job. But I do want to piggyback off of what you were saying as far as, our children, things thrive in a positive environment when you focus on nurturing what you have been gifted to care for. And so for us adults, you think about that boss that points out everything you do wrong, and then take that feeling and then apply it to what your kids may feel when you come home. And it's like, oh, why did you do this? And understanding, this is my issue. This is something that gets under my skin. Not that you're not going to address it, but when the emotions are so high, when the frustration is high, you don't give yourself the space to kind of, okay, let me pull back. Let me give proper perspective and balance to my agitation and look at what's all involved in this rage I'm feeling. And then get your emotions regulated before you confront your children, confront your spouse, confront a boss, so that it's now a logical sense and not driven by heightened emotions that can be very detrimental.
Right, because those heightened emotions, oftentimes they take away from the message
Right.
that you're trying to convey. The message you're trying to convey is lost in the emotion behind it.
Right.
So that is wisdom, being able to take some time to think, calm down before you engage in many conversations that can ultimately end up hurting you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I believe, I can't speak for other nations here in America, my experience in different environments I've been around, it's like a competition. Arguments look at a competition, looking to see who's going to clap back the hardest, who's going to, I'm going to shut you down because of, A, B, C, and D. You got this long list of stuff that people in your life have done to hurt you, and you just waiting for the opportunity to shut them down and to bring shame. And that does not reflect love at all.
And even as you were talking, babe, I was sitting and thinking about my own life. So obviously I grew up in a home with a strong disciplinarian. My father was in the military. And obviously my mom, before my dad passed, they were married for years. And then obviously my dad passed away. But so my dad was in the military. My mom, she didn't play as well. They both raised us in an environment of love, did the best they could, provided for us as best they could. We had love, we had structure, we had support. But sometimes it was to the point where, and I don't regret any form of discipline that I've received. I needed it. I was, in a lot of ways, I would say I was a very spunky kid, meaning I was curious. I was always into something. However, I do know that sometimes the things that I got into that got me in trouble was a result of not feeling understood. Now, my father, I was raised in a strong disciplinarian household, but I realized as I got older and as I became a man, that there was some things that I was saying that I didn't even really like. Meaning, yes, we have disciplined our children, we have spanked them on occasions, but it's not something that we've had to do on a consistent basis. And honestly, we both believe in talking more than, we ever have corrected our children when they were younger as far as spanking them. But I know for me, part of me maturing is realizing even the threat of it. I had a tendency to say, you don't do this right now, I'm going to spank you. And as I, a couple of years into marriage and, as we start having our children, I began to realize the detriments of even constantly using the threat. Now, it's obvious now, but because of how I was raised, there was things that I grew, and I'm not bashing my parents, even how I was raised. Like I said, did the best they could. But every generation, our goal and our responsibility is to make adjustments and do better. My mom and dad raised me and said, I don't want you to be like me, son. I want you to be better than me. I want you to know and do better. And so for me, I had to mature and grow up. And that's really based upon conversations we've had as well, and take some time to self-reflect and make adjustments along the way. It's not good enough to not only constantly go and try to get a belt when someone do something, which that was never our norm,
right?
But even the threat of it, I had a tendency, because of how I was raised, to constantly threat, you're going to get a spanking if you don't do something. So I had to mature and learn, like, wait a minute, our children need to spend more time talking to them about why they need to avoid certain, choices. What's the detriment of the choices they're making? Why is it that, you may be punished if you do this? So I had personally, I'm telling on me, I had to spend time rethinking and then re-implementing conversation, how I communicated with my children, even when I needed to bring correction in the form of a conversation.
Right.
Versus in my past having a tendency to bring up getting a spanking.
And I think even we've incorporated, I think, some very, very great tools for disciplining our children, because it's always going to provoke thought. And for them, it's them learning the work behind growth. So an example is having to do research on a specific topic, write a paper about it, and then come talk to us about it, so that they aren't just having the conversation. Now they have to do the digging. They have to unpack it so that they are truly getting an understanding. And those are what I say anchor moments, where you're giving them things that are going to anchor them in life. And and I know for some kids that get so tired of the talking, they're like, can you just whoop me so I can go play again? They don't want to do all the research, because again, it's positioning them to develop roots is basically what I'm trying to convey. You want to have disciplinary actions that develop roots in them, so that they think, one time, oh yeah, this is going to lead to this if I do that.
Right, but even in education, which is so good, because when we give them assignment, let's say if they make a rash decision that is detrimental to their well-being, let's say they, whatever the situation is, they didn't follow directions. We told them to do something, to clean up, do their chores, and they didn't do it. Or, whatever the issue, the infraction is, they broke a rule. One of the things, when they have to go back and do some research, whether they look up something, they write a paper about it. Number one, it's creating in them the ability to be a lifelong learner, because it's easy to ask someone a question and get the answer versus teaching your child to go dig and get the answer for themselves. So it's instilling in them to be a lifelong learner. Go dig. Don't wait on someone to give you something. You go study and learn for yourself. Be proactive in your education. For those of writing assignments that we've given, that the truth be told, the kids may have not liked it, but it definitely is going to help them be a better writer.
Absolutely.
Okay? And then when you have to read and analyze an article and come up with your own questions and really listen to your own thoughts and develop your own questions, that is a tool that is teaching. Well, that's a method to teach children, the ability to process information, critical thinking skills, its ability to process information and develop and raise questions that is truly, scientifically proven a higher level of thinking. And so as we have implemented those specific tools at a young age, although we're bringing correction by doing it, it's a win-win, because it's also developing in them critical thinking skills that's going to be needed when they start their business, when they get their first job, when they're looking for a promotion. The ability to critically analyze a situation, the ability to critically think and make sound decisions based off of those critical thinking skills.
That's incredible. It's crucial. Lifelong lessons.
Right.
Another thing that we implement is for chores if they don't complete a chore or they have to do a chore, again, not investing our time and you didn't do this. It goes back to, okay, if you didn't complete a job, you're going to have a dock in your pay. You making it relevant to real life situations. And then it's like their look on their face is like, what? Well, what can I do to earn it back? And, because they have to realize, okay, if you showed up on your job and you have to do a job, you'd either get written up, you get fired, hours cut. And so letting them understand, teaching them, okay, if you go out in real life and do this, this is the consequence of your choice. Versus, again, investing all this time, upset, frustrated, going in there, doing it ourselves, yelling at them. It's now your blood pressure's up, your cortisol levels are gone crazy, your kids are afraid to come and talk to you. I mean, it's just a domino effect.
Right. So we want to stress, listen, we're excited to be back with you all.
Yes.
It has been real. I would encourage you, make those adjustments. Listen, what has your time but doesn't deserve it? What deserves your time but doesn't have it? Loving your life, making the necessary adjustments to love your life enough to show that you're investing your time in things that deserve it, and you're taking away your time back from things that doesn't deserve your time.
Yeah, so be intentional with your time. Again, we thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Loving Your Life. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and Stitcher. We love you, and we will be back.
Peace.
Shout to the city that raised me. Shout to the people that made me. I'm from the 80s. I don't think mumbling wavy. I grew up black on a Jay-Z. Maybe I'm crazy. I ain't been wondering lately. Feel like it's there for the taking. Feel like I'm good with the changes. Know who I am. And that's the most dangerous state.
Hey, Love Your Life fam. It's Crystal and Andre Holland.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, looking forward to hearing from you. So to find us, you can check us out on
Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Stitcher. We look forward to hearing from you all.